My father died on a Tuesday. 3 days later, a stranger came to my house, handed me a small brass key, and said, "Your father told me to give you this only after he was gone." I almost closed the door in his face. My father had been dead for 72 hours. I was still trying to understand how a man who had been part of my life for 38 years could suddenly become a memory. And now a stranger was standing on my porch with a key. "What does it open?" I asked. The man looked at the key for a moment. He didn't tell me. "Then why are you giving it to me?" "Because he trusted you." There was something strange about the way he said it. Not dramatic. Not threatening. Just certain. I looked at the small brass key again. A tiny number was engraved near the top. 17. Before I could ask another question, the man turned around and walked toward his car. "Wait." He stopped. "Who are you?" He looked back at me. "Someone your father helped a long time ago." Then he got into his car and drove away. I stood on the porch until the car disappeared. My wife, Melissa, came downstairs a few minutes later. "Who was that?" "I don't know." She looked at the key in my hand. "What is it?" "My father left it for me." She frowned. "Did he tell you about it?" "No, I put it on the kitchen counter. For some reason, I didn't want to touch it anymore. My father's death had already left me with enough questions. He had been sick for almost a year, but he never wanted anyone to make a big deal about it. Whenever I asked how he felt, he would shrug. "I'm getting old, that's all." He was 68. Not young, but not old enough for me to imagine life without him. 3 days before he died, I had sat beside his hospital bed. He had barely spoken. At one point, he opened his eyes and looked at me. "There's something I need to tell you." I leaned closer. "What?" He struggled to breathe. "After I'm gone," I waited. But he never finished the sentence. The nurse came in, and my father closed his eyes. I thought there would be another chance. There wasn't. Now I couldn't stop thinking about those unfinished words. That night, I barely slept. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and went into the kitchen. The key was still sitting where I had left it. I picked it up. Number 17. Then I remembered something. My father had a storage unit. I hadn't thought about it in years. After my mother died, Dad rented one because he didn't want to throw away her things. The next morning, I found the paperwork in the folder his lawyer had given me. There it was. Storage Facility, Unit 17, I stared at the number. It couldn't be a coincidence. I told Melissa where I was going. She looked worried. "Do you want me to come?" "No, why not?" "I don't know what's there." "That sounds like a reason for me to come." I smiled. "You've known me long enough to know I'll probably find trouble even if you stay home." She smiled back, but her expression remained worried. "Call me when you get there." "I will." The storage facility was on the other side of town. It was one of those places with long rows of metal doors and security cameras mounted on every corner. An older man sat behind the office desk. I showed him my identification. "Richard Miller's son?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Your father came here a few months ago." I looked at him. "He did?" "Twice." "Did he say why?" "No, did he leave anything for me?" The man thought for a moment. "He told me that if anyone came asking about Unit 17, should call him." My stomach tightened. "But he's dead." "I know." The man looked uncomfortable. "He also said that if he couldn't answer the phone, should let his son inside." I took out the key. The man saw it. His expression changed. "So he finally gave it to you. You know what this is?" "No," he pointed toward the hallway. Unit 17 is at the end. I thanked him. The key felt heavier in my hand as I walked. When I reached the door, I stood there for several seconds. Then I unlocked it. The metal door rolled upward. Inside was an ordinary storage unit. At first, I felt disappointed. Old furniture. Boxes. My mother's clothes. A broken television. A few tools. Nothing that explained why my father had been so secretive. I walked deeper inside. Then I noticed a large wooden trunk. It was sitting beneath a dusty blanket. I pulled the blanket away. There was a small lock on the trunk. I tried the brass key. It opened. Inside were envelopes. Dozens of them. Each one had a date written across the front. The newest was dated 2 months before my father's death. I opened it. My father's handwriting filled the page. If you're reading this, then I didn't get the chance to explain everything myself. I sat on the floor. My hands were shaking. I continued. I need you to understand something before you judge me. Your mother knew the truth. She wanted me to tell you years ago. I was too afraid. I stopped reading. My mother had died 8 years ago. What truth? I continued. 25 years ago, I made a decision that changed our family forever. I thought I was protecting you. I wasn't. I turned the page. The next line made my heart stop. Your brother is alive. I stared at the words. I had never had a brother. At least, that's what I had been told. My parents had one child. Me. I read the sentence again. Then I found a photograph beneath the letter. It showed my father standing beside a young man. The man looked about my age. He had my father's eyes. And my face. I flipped the photograph over. My father's handwriting was on the back. Michael, 1998, I couldn't breathe. A second photograph showed the same young man as a child. Beside him stood my mother. She was holding his hand. I sat there in silence. Then my phone rang. It was Melissa. Are you okay? I couldn't answer. Daniel? My father had another son. She went quiet. What? I found photographs. Where are you? His storage unit. Come home. I can't. Why? I looked at the photograph again. Because I think my father spent 25 years hiding someone from us. Before she could answer, I heard something outside the storage unit. Footsteps. Slow. Someone stopped directly outside. I lowered my voice. Melissa, I'll call you back. Daniel, what's happening? I ended the call. The footsteps moved away. I waited. Then I heard the storage facility gate open. A vehicle started. I looked through the small opening beneath the door. A black SUV was leaving. I hadn't noticed it when I arrived. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. You shouldn't have opened Unit 17, another message came immediately. Your father kept you safe for 25 years, then, now you're not safe anymore. I stared at the screen. I had no idea who was sending the messages. But I suddenly understood why my father had left me the key. He knew someone might come looking for what was inside that unit. I went back to the trunk. At the very bottom was one final envelope. It wasn't dated. My name was written on it. I opened it. There were only 3 lines. Daniel, if they find Unit 17, they will come for you next. Find Michael before they do. I looked at the photograph of the man who was supposedly my brother. Then I noticed something written beneath his name. An address. I grabbed the photograph, the letter, and the remaining documents. I was about to leave when I noticed another piece of paper underneath the trunk. It was an old police report. The headline made my blood run cold. Missing child, Michael Miller, age 7, underneath was the date. October 14, 1998, and beside the word, status, was one handwritten sentence, case closed. Child presumed dead, ***, but my father had written across the bottom, he was never dead. I folded the report and put it in my pocket. Then I heard the storage unit door begin to move. Someone was opening it from the outside. I stepped backward. A man's voice came through the narrow opening. Daniel? I recognized the voice. It was the stranger who had brought me the key. He slowly raised the door. And when he saw what I was holding, his face changed. You found him, he whispered. I stared at him. Where is my brother? He looked toward the parking lot. That's the problem. What problem? He knows you're looking for him. I stepped closer. Then take me to him. The stranger shook his head. I can't. Why? He looked at the open trunk. Because Michael doesn't want to be found. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. Your brother believes your father was the reason he disappeared. The stranger's words stayed in my head. My brother believes my father was the reason he disappeared. I couldn't make sense of it. My father spent 25 years looking for him. The stranger shook his head. That's not what Michael believes. Then what does he believe? That your father sold him. I stared at him. What? He looked toward the parking lot. Not here. I'm not leaving until you explain. He sighed. My name is Thomas. Your father knew me for a long time. Why did he trust you? Because I helped him hide Michael. I felt my anger rising. Then tell me what happened. Thomas looked at the photograph in my hand. Your brother was 7 when he disappeared. Your father had discovered that someone was using children to move stolen money and documents between different cities. I shook my head. That sounds insane. I wish it were. What did Michael have to do with it? Nothing. He was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Thomas explained that my father had been working as a mechanic for a company that transported equipment across state lines. He noticed strange shipments. Boxes that were supposed to contain machine parts sometimes contained cash, passports, and other documents. He reported it. After that, people started watching our family. My father never told me. He wanted you to have a normal childhood. And Michael? Michael became a target. Thomas said that one night, my father received a warning. Someone was coming for Michael. My father took him and disappeared. But before he could bring him home, something went wrong. Your father was attacked? No, Thomas looked at me. Michael was told that your father had abandoned him. By whom? The people who took him. My stomach tightened. They convinced him that your father had sold him to protect himself. I couldn't speak. Where was my mother? She was told Michael was dead. And my father? He spent years trying to find him. I looked at the photograph. Then why did he never tell me? Because every time he got close, someone threatened your life. I didn't know whether to believe Thomas. Then he handed me a folded piece of paper. Your father wrote this for Michael. I opened it. The handwriting was shaky. Michael, I never gave you away. I looked for you every day. If you ever find this, please know that I never stopped loving you. I felt tears in my eyes. Where is he? Thomas hesitated. He lives outside the city. Take me there. No, why? Because Michael doesn't trust anyone. I don't care. You should. I looked at him. He's my brother. Thomas nodded. Then let him decide if you're his brother. We drove for nearly an hour. The house was small and isolated. Thomas stopped at the end of a dirt road. Go alone. I got out. I walked toward the house. Before I could knock, the door opened. A man stood there. He was older than the photograph. Maybe 40. He had the same eyes as my father. He looked at me. Neither of us spoke. Finally he said, "Daniel." I nodded. "You look like Mom." I swallowed. "You remember her?" "Every day." He stepped aside. I entered. The house was simple. There were books everywhere. Photographs covered one wall. I saw my mother. My father. And a photograph of me as a little boy. "You kept this?" Michael looked away. "I couldn't throw it away." "Why did you think Dad sold you?" "Because that's what they told me." "They lied." "I know that now." I sat down. "Why didn't you come home?" He laughed bitterly. "Because I didn't know where home was anymore." We sat quietly. Then Michael pulled out an old box. Inside were letters. Hundreds of them. All from my father. "He sent these?" "Yes." "Why didn't you answer?" "I thought they were fake." I looked at him. Fake? I believed he was trying to find me so he could finish what he started. I understood then how much fear could distort the truth. "Dad died 3 days ago." Michael's expression changed. "I know." "You knew?" "I was at the funeral." I stared at him. "You were there?" He nodded. "I stood across the street." "Why didn't you come to me?" "I was scared. I didn't know what to say." Then he reached into the box. "There is something else." He handed me a small envelope. It had my father's handwriting. I opened it. "Daniel, if you're reading this with Michael beside you, then I finally succeeded. I wanted you both to know the truth. The person who caused Michael's disappearance is still alive." I looked at Michael. "Who?" He shook his head. "We don't know." I continued reading. "His name is Samuel Carter. He worked with me 25 years ago. I believed he was helping us. He wasn't." Michael stood. "Samuel found me." "When?" 2 months ago." "What did he want?" "He wanted the documents Dad kept." I remembered the trunk. The photographs. The bank records. The storage unit. Michael nodded. "That's what he's looking for." My phone buzzed. A message appeared. "You have 1 hour, then another. Bring the key." Michael looked at me. "He knows you're here." Thomas entered the house. "We need to leave." Michael grabbed the old box. "What about the evidence?" "I already copied it." We left through the back door. As we reached the car, a black SUV appeared at the end of the road. The same SUV from the storage facility. Thomas started the engine. We drove. The SUV followed. Michael looked at me. "Your father was right." "About what?" "He said that one day they'd come for you." We drove toward an old motel where Thomas had arranged a room. For the first time, Michael and I were alone. I looked at him. "Why did Dad keep everything in Unit 17? "Because he wanted us to find each other." I smiled sadly. "He always loved puzzles." Michael laughed. "Mom hated them." For a moment, it felt normal. 2 brothers talking about their parents. Then someone knocked on the door. We froze. Thomas looked through the peephole. Nobody was there. He opened the door slowly. A package sat on the floor. Inside was a photograph. My father. Thomas. Michael. And a fourth person. I looked closely. It was Samuel Carter. On the back were 4 words, "Your father trusted him." Thomas's face went pale. "He's lying." "How do you know?" "Because Samuel was never my father's friend." Michael looked at me. "Then who was he?" Thomas didn't answer. He simply picked up the photograph. "There is one thing your father never told either of you." "What?" "Samuel was your father's brother." I stared at him. "My father had a brother?" "Yes," Thomas said. "And that means, Samuel knew your family long before Michael disappeared." The room became silent. Then someone tried the motel door. Thomas pushed a chair against it. "Get ready." We moved toward the back window. A loud bang shook the room. Michael grabbed the evidence. I climbed through the window. Thomas followed. We ran behind the motel. A car was waiting. We drove until sunrise. By morning, we reached a small police station outside the city. Thomas gave them everything. The documents. The photographs. The letters. The evidence from Unit 17. Investigators began connecting the names. Samuel Carter was arrested 2 days later. The case revealed something none of us expected. He had been responsible for Michael's disappearance. He had convinced him that our father had abandoned him. He had spent 25 years keeping our family apart. But there was one final thing. Before Samuel was taken away, he asked to speak to me. I almost refused. But I went. He sat behind the glass. "You want to know why your father never told you?" "Yes." "Because he was ashamed." "Of what?" Samuel smiled. "He wasn't ashamed of losing Michael." He leaned closer. "He was ashamed that he trusted me." I stared at him. "You were his brother." "Yes." "And you destroyed his family." He looked down. I was angry. At him? At everyone. I left without saying another word. 3 months later, Michael moved closer to me. We started having dinner together every Sunday. Sometimes we talked about our childhood. Sometimes we talked about the years we lost. And sometimes we just sat quietly. I kept my father's brass key. I never returned it to the storage facility. It sits on my desk now. A small reminder of the secret that brought 2 brothers back together. My father had spent 25 years trying to repair something he couldn't fix alone. He didn't get to see us together. But before he died, he made sure we had the chance. And I finally understood what he had tried to tell me in the hospital. Some secrets are kept because people are afraid. Some are kept because they are ashamed. But the hardest secrets are the ones people carry because they believe telling the truth will hurt the people they love. My father carried his secret for 25 years. I wish he'd told me sooner. But I'm grateful he finally did. Because sometimes the truth arrives too late to save the past. But just in time to save the future.